Hey YouTube community and the people of Papua New Guinea. Today the Secretary-General of UN addressed our parliament. Before we go into his speech, let's see who he is. Antonio Guterres, born April 30th, 1949, Lisbon, Portugal, is a Portuguese politician and diplomat who served as Prime Minister of Portugal, 1995-2002, and Secretary-General of the United Nations, 2017 to present. Thank you for visiting PNG. This is his speech.
Honorable members, I now invited the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, to make his speech.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Members of Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Good Pella morning through Olgeta. Allow me to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Motu Koita people of the Port Moresby area, Daba Namona. It is a profound honor to be with you today and a privilege to be the first serving Secretary-General of the United Nations to visit Papua New Guinea. I have not been here long, but I am already deeply inspired by the majesty of your landscapes, the richness of your cultures, and the warmth of your welcome. Thank you. I am especially proud to be here as you mark 50 years of independence and to do so with you, the proud representatives of the people of Papua New Guinea. And allow me a personal observation. I was 17 years member of Parliament, and afterwards, during 6 years and a half, I was elected Prime Minister, but in our system, the Prime Minister must suspend his seat in Parliament and be replaced by an alternate. And as we do not have, in several periods, a very stable democratic situation, it has happened that the President, that has no powers in governing the country, can dismiss Parliament. So our Parliament was dismissed several times, and 7 times I had to be elected. And this creates me an enormous admiration for the distinguished members of this Parliament, because it was relatively easy for me, when elected, to go to my constituency during my mandate. But I know for many of you, you have to be working with the people of constituencies that are very far away, in very remote locations, but keep the strong meaning of the democratic connection between the people and the members of Parliament. Congratulations on your very strong commitment. And allow me to say that I feel doubly at home being here. First, I feel at home because of the warm welcome that I received. I was deeply grateful yesterday because of the very warm and fraternal way I was received. But the second reason is because I was myself, for the largest period in my different functions in life, member of a Parliament. So if you allow me, Your Excellencies, I ask you to allow me to call you dear colleagues. You are my Wantoks. Papua New Guinea is a country of tremendous diversity, a land of over 800 languages and countless traditions. And yet, you have a shared commitment to speak with one voice, to having one talk for peace, for dignity, and for progress. You are the champions of multilateralism and international solutions, and that spirit is urgently needed in our world today. Honorable members of Parliament, we meet at a time of global turmoil. Progress against poverty has stalled. Barbarous conflicts unfold on live stream. The climate crisis is accelerating, with extreme weather and rising sea levels threatening communities around the globe, affect the people of Papua New Guinea know all too well. Geopolitical tensions, runaway technologies, growing inequalities, and shrinking democratic space have converged into a volatile new global reality. In the face of these storms, Papua New Guinea offers a number of powerful lessons to the world. The first is the art of forging consensus through dialogue. For the past half-century, you have worked to have a single nation, out of many traditions, many islands, many tongues. One people, one nation, one country. Of course, that task is not easy, but you are determined to move forward step by step. Last Saturday marked the 21st anniversary of the Bougainville Peace Agreement. This conflict left deep scars, but for more than 2 decades, Papua New Guinea and Bougainville have stayed the course of peace. You have shown the world the path of healing through dialogue, perseverance, and mutual respect. Tomorrow, Bougainvilleans will cast their votes in the 5th autonomous election since the agreement. I would like to salute the President of Bougainville, who is with us here today. Thank you for your commitment to these noble efforts. The Melanesian Agreement, signed in June, exemplifies both parties' willingness to engage in the difficult conversations, and the United Nations has been honored to be part of this process. Our Peacebuilding Fund has supported weapons disposal, the 2019 referendum, and the work of the independent moderator in a close partnership with the governments of Bougainville and Papua New Guinea. We are also proud to work in partnership with women, youth, and civil society throughout Bougainville. Your continued dialogue offers a model to other countries, and I am confident that the next phase will deliver a lasting resolution to the mutual benefit of all. Papua New Guinea's newly adopted National Prevention Strategy further affirms your commitment to ending violence for all. I look forward to visiting the Highlands tomorrow, where the Peacebuilding Fund, together with the UN Country Fund, is investing in your efforts to resolve conflict, engage youth, and support internally displaced people. Papua New Guinea is a dynamic partner. Our efforts together include everything from advancing healthcare to sustainable agriculture, providing life-saving assistance to those impacted by landslides, and collaborating on anti-corruption trainings for public servants and the judiciary. You understand that success is not measured in economic growth alone, but by delivering for those hardest to reach. To reduce inequalities, expand opportunity, ensure safety and security, and leave no one behind, we are with you every step of the way. The United Nations has not an agenda in Papua New Guinea. Our agenda is to support the government and the people of Papua New Guinea according to your strategies, according to your policies, and according to the decisions you take in relation to the development of your country. Excellencies, honorable parliamentarians, the second lesson you offer to the world is bold climate action. Time and again, we have seen climate leadership flow not from countries with the most wealth and power, but from those who know the stakes firsthand. The Pacific Islands are ground zero for the impacts of climate change, and Papua New Guinea is home to 2 out of the 3 Pacific citizens. You are also home to 7% of the world's biodiversity and some of the largest coral reefs and rainforests of the planet. We must be ever vigilant in safeguarding these crucial ecosystems, and we have made the case that national protection deserves global support. You have emphasized that climate change is a driver of poverty and been a strong moral voice for climate finance. This is my first trip to the Pacific since the landmark advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, in which the region played a central role. That opinion affirms that addressing the climate crisis is a legal obligation under international law. And it builds on your pioneering work on sea level rise as part of the Pacific Island Forum. And is a testament to the leadership of Papua New Guinea, Melanesia, and the wider Pacific region, particularly your young people, who make up 60% of your population. Your voice will be integral again during the annual UN Climate Conference in Belém, Brazil. The 1.5-degree limit is in jeopardy. The science tells us it is still possible, but we do not have a moment to lose. The clock is ticking for countries to submit their new national climate plans, or NDCs. And these plans offer the chance to plot a just transition and seize the opportunities of the renewables revolution. They must align with the 1.5-degree limit as promised, cover all emissions across the entire economy, and accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels. We must push all countries to deliver. Papua New Guinea does not contribute to climate change. You are even a carbon sink country. And so it's particularly the G20 who together account for 80% of global emissions that have a special responsibility in the present moment. And they must present their new plans at a special event I will host in New York later this month, fully aligned with the objective of keeping the 1.5 degrees as the limit of global warming. And we must also push for a step change on climate finance. And this includes significantly increased contributions to the new fund for responding to loss and damage, including from innovative sources. Allow me again to tell you a remarkable true story that shows how difficult it is to force developed countries to commit to, with their resources, to our common goal in climate action. When the Loss and Damage Fund was formed, was decided in the COP in Dubai, there was a first pledging conference. The amounts pledged, especially by developed countries, were equivalent to the contract of the best played American basketball player. And that shows that indeed a lot must be done to make the Loss and Damage Fund a reality, able to support countries like yours. We must tell developed countries that this is not the time for petty contributions. We must find innovative forms of financing, putting levies on fossil fuels, putting levies on transportation, doing maritime transportation, doing other forms of collecting funds, but we absolutely must create the conditions for a country like yours to have the necessary resources to face the negative impacts of climate change. And you can count with the voice of the UN to be entirely at your side. I look indeed for your continued strong leadership in New York, in Brazil, and beyond. And developed countries must honor their promises to double adaptation finance by this year and deliver 300 billion a year by 2035. Adaptation is for us today a fundamental priority. Obviously, we must reduce emissions. We must have a drastic reduction in emissions now. But we cannot forget that people is already suffering the impacts of climate change. And when we see the sea level rising, when we see the impact on glaciers, when we see the impact on coral reefs, we understand the impact on populations, namely in coastal areas. We understand the need to have a much stronger solidarity internationally to support a country like yours, to build the necessary infrastructure, to build the necessary mechanisms to increase the resilience, to resist the dramatic impacts of climate change. And we are in total solidarity to Papua New Guinea to tell the international community that much more must be put in place to support developing countries in adaptation. Excellencies, while climate finance is vital, it is not sufficient on its own. Many developing countries are drowning in unsustainable debt, victims of inequalities built into the system. Today's international financial architecture is unequal and unjust. We will keep pushing for meaningful reforms to ensure the fair representation of developing countries, to take real action on debt relief, to triple the lending capacity of multilateral development banks, and to mobilize private capital at scale. When the Security Council of the United Nations or the IMF or the World Bank were created, Papua New Guinea was not yet independent. And together with Papua New Guinea, tens and tens of countries around the world were not yet independent. So their voices were not heard, which means that the institutions that are central in the management of global finance, as the institution that is central in the question of peace, the Security Council, do not represent the world of today. They represent the world of 1945. And in 1945, we had essentially developed countries running the show. And so these institutions largely are operating in the context of a system that favors developed countries and that creates obstacles to the capacity of developing countries to really provide to their citizens all the things they are entitled to receive in a modern world. And you can count on our total commitment to go on fighting for a reform of these institutions in order for developing countries to have representation, voice, but also effective access to the resources they need to move forward with their plans. Excellencies, Papua New Guinea has set itself a powerful mission to be one people and one nation and one country and to leave no one behind. Not long ago, you hosted peacekeepers. Today, you are a champion of peace building and sustainable development. But no story of peace or progress is complete without fully including half of the population. This is another area where you have the opportunity to set a global example. 5 years ago, the UN Deputy Secretary General launched the Spotlight Initiative on Papua New Guinea, part of the world's largest effort to end all forms of violence against women and girls. No society is immune from this challenge, and in Papua New Guinea, 2 out of 3 women experience gender-based violence. The solutions here, like everywhere, began with the hard conversations about systemic and cultural barriers. I had that experience in my own country. When I was in government, family violence was a serious problem, but it was an ignored problem. Nobody would talk about it. And the police would not pay attention, the judiciary would not act, and of course, the problem would not be solved. And it was necessary to have a very determined program of action to try to reverse this trend. Now, I know that in March this year, this Parliament devoted an entire day to testimonies on gender-based violence. You took the vital step of speaking openly, of making commitments, and of forming the Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Across politics, culture, and every sector, we must keep working to widen the doors of opportunity for women and girls in Papua New Guinea and in the world at large. Ensuring greater voice and representation of women is not only a matter of justice, it's a matter of national strength. Families thrive, communities grow stronger, and institutions become more responsive when we uphold the rights of all. The launch of your national human rights strategy is a prime example of your recognition of these truths, and I commend your pledge to establish a National Human Rights Commission. The people of New Guinea enjoys a democracy, and a democracy that reflects every citizen. And the United Nations is proud to support young people, persons with disabilities, and women to foster a culture of dignity for all. I commend the courage and resilience of the women of Papua New Guinea and look forward to hearing their stories over the coming days. Honourable Members of Parliament, this year the United Nations also marks anniversary, our 80th. And on the other hand, speaking of anniversaries, you have not only 50 years of independence, you have 50 years of democracy. And that is another very strong bond with myself. Our democratic revolution was in '74, and our first constitutional government in '76, which means that we were 51 years or 49 years with a democracy. Taking an average, 50 years of democracy. So there is this very strong link between Papua New Guinea and Portugal. We were able to, after independence or after dictatorship, build a solid democracy that has been for 50 years a demonstration of the power of the people. Thank you very much for your example. We are now, in the context of our commemorations of the 80 years of the United Nations, we are launching a process called UN 80, our effort to strengthen our organization for the 21st century. And an essential part of that is ensuring that the voices of the Pacific are heard loud and clear throughout the multilateral system. On your anniversary, you took look to the future. In just 50 years, Papua New Guinea has undertaken a daunting task to forge a single nation from profound diversity. That is a journey with peaks and valleys like the highlands themselves. It is a path that demands courage and vision to walk. And the United Nations is proud to accompany you and to be in total solidarity with you on every step. Your story is a proof that when embraced with shared purpose and respect, our differences can be our greatest strengths. One talks, let's keep talking, for your people, for our planet, and for our shared future. Thank you, Tumas Olgeta.